Radhe Radhe, a spiritual good morning to one and all, and welcome to this new chapter we've started for our continuing series of Bhagavad Gita recitation classes. That new chapter today is chapter 9, and along with me for this recap video is Mummy.
Radhe Radhe.
So I'm going to bring up the screen and show the content that we covered. As I mentioned, new chapter starting today, April 29th, Saturday, 2023, and chapter 9, verses 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We shall first start off with a rendition of all the 5 verses. Then we'll learn some vocabulary to add to our Sanskrit dictionary, then brief explanation, and another round of recitation.
Radhe Radhe. And here we start a new chapter. Chapter 9. So we'll start with a starting prayer. Om Shri Paramatmane Namaha Atha Navamodhyayaha Rajavidya Yogaha Shri Bhagavanu Vacha Idam Tute Guhyatamam Pravakshyamyanasuyave Jnanam Vijnana Sahitam Yajñatva Mokshase Shubhat Rajavidya Rajaguhyam Pavitram Idam Uttamam Pratyakshaavagamam Dharmyam Susukham Kartum Avyayam Ashraddadhanah Purusha Dharmasyasya Parantapa Aprapya Mam Nivartante Mrityu Samsara Vartmani Maya Tatam Idam Sarvam Jagad Avyakta Murtina Matsthani Sarva Bhutani Nachaham Teshva Avasthitaha Nacha Matsthani Bhutani Pashyame Yogam Aishwaram Bhuta Bhrinna Cha Bhutastho Mamatma Bhuta Bhavanaha. And now let's look at one important word in each verse. So from verse number 1, I have chosen Guhyat Mam. Guhyat Mam. Guhyat Mama. Guhyat Mama means this is the most confidential secret that Krishna is going to tell in this chapter. Verse number 2, the word I have chosen is Pratyaksh, which is quite common, but Pratyaksh means something which you can directly perceive, perceptible, something that you can see directly. Verse number 3, let's look at the word Ashraddadhana. Ashraddadhana means people who are without faith. Shraddha means who have faith, and Ashraddhanaha means people without faith. Then verse number 4, let's look at the word Avyakt Murtina. Avyakt Murtina, Murtina means form, Avyakt means something which cannot be seen. So that means the unmanifested form of God. Verse number 5, a very new word here, Yogam Aishwaram. Yogam Aishwarya means the divine energy of God. So this is the new word we have learned here, Yogam Aishwarya. Over to you, Gagan.
Thank you, Mummy. So now let's look at a quick explanation of all of these 5 verses. So chapter 9, verse 1, the catchphrase here is as a question, private and confidential. We see that, Shri Krishna mentions that this is, of course, confidential knowledge. But because Arjun is not envious of Shri Krishna, he is entitled to hear that knowledge and wisdom. And we fortunately are able to do that as well. So not necessarily private for some of us on this spiritual path, but something to ponder about whether it is all private and confidential. Sri Krishna mentions, of course, that if you're not envious of him, we can hear it. And he, in fact, is talking about his glories. That is Sri Krishna being compassionate, not having the material defect of conceit that otherwise we humans would be having. And Swamiji mentions in the commentary that this is, of course, we've heard before, it's a secret. Chapter 2, Guhya, the secret, was about, Sankhya Yoga, the analytical nature of the soul. Chapter 7 and 8, we progressed to Guhyatar, more, secretive material, which is about the divine energies of Sri Krishna. And now Guhyatam, the highest secrecy, chapter 9 and beyond, learning about bhakti. Chapter 9, verse 2, of kings and subjects. That is the catchphrase. As Sri Krishna says, science is, the king of that is this wisdom of the Bhagavad Gita. It helps purify the heart through bhakti. And as we also see in the translation, it is directly perceptible, pratyaksh, I think, as Mummy said. And it is something we can easily practice in accordance with dharma. And its effect is everlasting. Chapter 9, verse 3, another question in the catchphrase, cycle of faith. As Sri Krishna says, and has told us before as well, it is essential to have faith. And without that, we cannot attain Sri Krishna. If we do not have faith, we then rotate in that cycle, that sansar of birth and death. So instead, let's probably think about practicing the wheels of motion or riding the cycle of faith. So we have the example in the commentary about Draupadi. We saw that earlier today in Bhagavad Gita study as well. There's another example Swamiji presents about a sadhu and a king, and then milk, yogurt, and butter. So I do encourage everyone to take a look at that. And again, it's essential to have faith, but Swamiji also reminds us that God has given us free will. And the hope is that with that free will, we shall actively exercise it and decide to progress in the direction of God. Chapter 9, verse 4, dwell upon it. Encouraging advice, because Sri Krishna says all living beings dwell in him, but he doesn't dwell in us. And that is to do with the fact that God is all pervading. We learned, of course, about his different energies in chapter 7, specifically chapter 7, verses 4 and 5, Prakriti, Jeev Shakti, Maya. So in all of that, right, the world and the souls are various energies of God. God is all pervading, but in his infinite form, he certainly doesn't dwell in us who are only finite beings. And finally, chapter 9, verse 5, abide by me. Sri Krishna here, in fact, tells us that, living beings, we don't abide in him, but therefore we should be following his advice and instructions and abiding by him. In this verse, in addition to other energies we have already learned about, we now get introduced to Yogmaya. And as Sri Krishna says, it's a mystery for all of us. So a lot of power, a lot of energy, and it is, through Maya and Yogmaya further that, Sri Krishna, in fact, is able to and chooses to keep aloof from Maya as well as all of us as in the world. He's not influenced by material nature or other creation. So he's not touched, he remains untouched in that sense. So that is the essence of chapter 9, verse 5, and all the different verses covered today. One more time, we shall hear a rendition of these 5 verses.
Shri Bhagavanuvacha idam tu te guhyatamam pravakshyamyanasuyave jnanam vijnana sahitam yajñatva mokshyase shubhat Rajavidya Rajaguhyam Pavitram Idam Uttamam Pratyaksh Avagamam Dharmyam Susukham Kartum Avyayam Ashraddadhanah Purusha Dharmasyasya Parantapa Aprapya mam nivartante mrityu samsara vartmani. Maya tatam idam sarvam jagad avyakta murtina matsthani sarvabhutani nachaham teshva avasthitaha nacha matsthani bhutani pashya me yogam aishwaram भूत भृन्न च भूतस्थो ममात्मा भूत भावनः. So hope it helps for all of you to revise these verses at your own pace. Over to you, Gagan.
Yeah, thank you, Mommy. That was our recap video for chapter 9 that started today. So verses 1 through 5. We do look forward to seeing you all in this continuing journey. Next week when we meet, the month of May would have started. So that is Saturday, 6th May, 2023. Same time, same place for Bhagavad Gita Recitation. And as always, 3 hours before this class starts, we have our Bhagavad Gita study class. In that series, we are a little past midway of chapter 7. And in fact, as you saw today, going through the explanation and verses, there's a lot of connection between chapter 7 and 9, chapter 7 and 8 that we just did in the recitation series. So a lot more that one can quickly connect with that sort of real-time view if you're able to make it for both classes every Saturday. Happy learning and the continued journey. So till we see you next time, thank you so much. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.